Hello and welcome to Padai on the YouTube channel. This video is for the class 7 and chapter first, nutrition in plants. Uh, so far in class 6 you have studied that food is essential for all living organism, and which is having the different components such as the carbohydrates, protein, fats, vitamins and minerals, and they are very essential for the human body. Now all the organisms require the food, right? And plant can make them their own food. All the animals and the humans depend on the plants for their food. So the first part is 1.1 mode of nutrition in the plant. So by taking off the nutritions, you can divide the plant into two different segments. Here they are talking about that what plants require: water, carbon dioxide and mineral as a raw material to make their own food. The nutrient enable the living organism to build their bodies, to grow and repair the damaged part of their bodies, right? So whatever the food that they eat is going to make their body to grow, right, and to repair the damaged part. Nutrition is the mode of taking a food by organism, right? So here it is a nutrition. Now the mode of nutrition in which organisms make food themselves from simple substance is called a autotrophic. When any of the plant or a living organism that make their own food, it's known as the autotrophs. Therefore plants are called autotrophs. Animal and the most other organism take it ready made food prepared by the plants, so they are called heterotrophs. Now we may ask where the food factories of the plants are located, whether the food is made in all plant of the part or certain part of the plant make the food. So we have studied about the photosynthesis, right? The food making process in the plant. Now leaves are known as the food factory because they make the food for the whole plant, and the raw materials required for them is water, mineral and water and minerals they can observe from the soil and by the roots and transported to the leaves. Carbon dioxide from the air is taken in through the tiny pores present on the surface of the leaf. So on the surface of the leaf there is a stomata present, right? And the stomatas are surrounded by the guard cells, so from where they can take the exchange of gases take place. Here another one, cell is given, right? What is a cell? It's a small living unit, right? Tiny unit called a cell. Now this cell has only under the microscope, if you look, you can find the nucleus, the center part, main part of the cell, cytoplasm. It's kind of a liquid that is within the cell there, and the cell membrane is the boundaries, or you can say the uh, layer of the cell. Now let's move towards the further. Yeah, water and minerals are transported to the leaves by the vessels that run like a pipes, right? So those pipe take the whole water from the and minerals from the root towards the leaves, because leaf is where going to use this all material to make their food. The leaves have green pigments, they are called chlorophyll. It helps the leaf to capture the energy of the sunlight, and this energy is used to synthesize food from the carbon dioxide and water. All right. Now, since the synthesis of food occurs in the presence of sunlight, it is called a photosynthesis, because light is there obviously, so it is known as the photosynthesis. So we find that chlorophyll, sunlight, carbon dioxide and water are necessary to carry out the process of photosynthesis. It is a unique process on the earth. The solar energy is captured by the leaves and stored in the plants in the form of food. Thus sun is the ultimate source of energy from all living organisms, right? Without sun then there is no photosynthesis is possible, right? So here it is the whole process. You can read it again, pause the video, you can go through back and just check you are not missing any parts of it. Now, can you imagine Earth without absence of photosynthesis? So, if there is no photosynthesis, we cannot get our food. Similarly, during the photosynthesis, what plant does is that they do the exchange of gases, right? Like carbon dioxide and oxygen. So, plant takes the carbon dioxide from the environment and release the oxygen, which is necessary for every human being. That is what the next paragraph is discussed. It of all the living organism is produced, right? So photosynthesis life supporting for the human. Now during the photosynthesis, chlorophyll contains cells of leaves in the presence of sunlight use carbon dioxide and water to synthesize carbohydrates. The process can be present in equation. So here it is an equation given: carbon dioxide and carbohydrates. Carbon dioxide plus water gives out sunlight and chlorophyll in presence of prepared the carbohydrates and oxygen, right? So you must, if you, when you get the book, you will get all this equation there. And here in the 1.2 figure, it suggests that the cross sections of the leaf, and that there are the cells were there, and cells containing the chlorophyll. Another stomata opening is also shown in this, and that has the guard cells. During the process of oxygen is released, right, this photosynthesis process, the carbohydrate ultimately get converted into starch. The presence of starch in the leaves indicate the occurrence of photosynthesis. The starch is also carbohydrates, right? So starch present in the leaves are the reason behind the photosynthesis take place. Now you can do the activity 1.1, which we have studied last time about the test of starch in the any of food or vegetable. Here it is given one such iodine check test for checking whether the chlorophyll is present or not. You can just leave the leaf under the iodine, uh, and when it turns out, you mark their colors, and from the color you can see the green or the black brown colors are the evidence that there is a presence of starch. You often see slimy green patches in the ponds or the other stagnant water bodies. These are generally formed by the growth of organism called algae. Can you guess why algae are green in color? And they contain chlorophyll, which gives them a green color. Algae can also prepare their own food by photosynthesis. So you see, whenever the area where the our taps are there, underneath there is some stones. So on the stone there are sometimes a green coat, we can see them, which is very slippery and sticky. That is a algae, right? Synthesis of plant food other than carbohydrates. You have just learned that plants synthesize carbohydrate the through the process of photosynthesis. The carbohydrates are made of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. They are used to synthesize other components of food, but protein are nitrogenous substance which contains nitrogen. From where do the plants obtain nitrogen, right? So if you remember that nitrogen is the highest part present in the atmosphere, right? However, plant cannot absorb the nitrogen from the environment. Soil has certain bacteria that convert this gaseous nitrogen into a usable substance and release into the soil. So the soluble forms of these are absorbed by the plant along with the water to do the photosynthesis or to grow. Also, you might have seen the farmer add the fertilizer which is rich in nitrogen, so which contain the nitrogen, right? In this way the plant fulfill the requirement of the nitrogen along with the other constituents. Plants can then synthesize components of foods other than carbohydrates such as protein and fats. Other mode of nutrition in the plant. So there are some plants which do not have chlorophyll. They cannot synthesize their food. How do they survive, and from where do they get these nutritions? So like human and animals, such plants depend on the food produced by the plants. other plants. So they are also known as the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. You have seen that some of the branches of the leaves are covered with the yellow tubular structures, or this is called a amarbel, called a cascata. In figure 1.5 it is also shown. I'll show you in a while. It does not have chlorophyll, so what it does is it takes a ready-made food from the plant. Now this is the tree 1.5 I am talking about, on which it climbs, and then plant on the climb is known as the host plant. Since the deprive the host of valuable nutrient, it is also called a parasite. Are we and the other animals also parasite for the plants? You should think about it, right? That do we parasite? Now actually the structure is modified part of the leaf. The apex of the leaf forms a lid which can open and close the mouth. Pitcher. So there is another, the plant is known as the pitcher plant. It has a mug like a structure, and it has a lid as well on the top of it. So whenever any the insect come closer to it, it has a slippery surface, so it slips inside, and in that inside the jug, the plant, and they got a digestive juice, so it digests the insect. So they are also known as insect eating plants or insectivorous plants. It is possible that such plants do not get all the required nutrients from the soil, so they either received by the fooled by the other plants. Now saprotrophs. See, you might have seen the packets of mushrooms sold in vegetables. These mushrooms are fluffy and like umbrella like structure, having a patchings growing rotting wood during the rainy seasons. Let us find out what type of the nutrients they need to survive and from where they get it. So you can take a piece of bread and then leave it, just moist it or make it wet and leave it for at a warm place for 2-3 days. Now you will see the fluffy patch comes out on this, and this green brown colors, right? You observe this patch in a microscope or magnifying glass. So what this is, right, look like, it is normally what we call the fungi. These organisms are called fungi, so they have different mode of nutrition. Normally they secrete a digestive juice on the dead and decaying matter and convert into solutions. So they absorb the nutrients from the dead and decaying substance and food, and then they start use as their own food, right? So it is known as the saprotrophic nutrition. Plant which use the saprotrophic mode of nutrition are called saprotrophs. Fungi also grown on pickles, leather clothes, and other articles left in the hot and humid weather for a long time. During the rainy season spoils many things. You can ask the parents to see there are many places where fungi can be seen. The fungal spores are generally present in the air. When they land on the wet and warm things, they germinate and start growing. Some organisms live together, share shelter and nutrition. This is called a symbiotic relationship. For example, certain fungi live in the roots of the tree, and the tree provides the nutrition to the fungus. Any nutrients receive the help from it to take up the water and nutrition from the soil. This association is very important for the tree. In organisms called lichens, a chlorophyll contains a partner, which is an algae and a fungus live together. The fungus provides shelter, water, and mineral to algae, and in return, the algae provides a food which is prepared by the photosynthesis. So they live on each other by providing them each other nutrition. How nutrients are replenished in the soil, right? What is a replenish means that how they are refill again, right? So when farmer add manures and fertilizer, why they're doing so? Because they replenish this all lacking nutrient in the soil, so the plant absorb that nutrition from the soil and grow properly. If the nutrients decline, right, that which used by the plant, They need to add more from time to time to make the enrich the soil. So we can grow the plant, keep the healthy if we can find out that nutrient requirements of the plant is properly provided. Usually crop required a lot of nitrogen to make a protein. So after the harvest, the soil becomes deficient in the nitrogen, and through the nitrogen gas is available in the plenty in the air, but plant cannot use this, so they can use carbon dioxide. They need nitrogen in the soluble form. So the bacterium called a rhizobium that takes the atmospheric nitrogen and convert into soluble forms, but rhizobiums cannot make its own food, so it lives in the roots of the grams, peas, mungs, and beans. So these plants are planted into the field to increase the amount of nitrogen into the soil. Most of the dal are obtained from the leguminous plant. In return, plants provide a food, shelter to the bacteria, and the symbiotic relationship. This association is of great significance for the farmers. They do not need to add nitrogenous fertilizer to the soil in which the leguminous plants are grown. In this chapter, what you have learned, most of the plants are autotrophs. Only a few plants adopt the other modes. Nutrients like the parasite, saprophyte, and their derived nutrients from other organisms. All these animals are categorized as heterotrophs since they depend on the plants and other animals for the food. We can say that they are insectivorous plant or partially heterotrophic plants.